Here's KATC meteorologist Daniel Phillips.
All right, everyone, we've got one last look here at the forecasts coming up for today. Now, we're going to have updates coming up for you at 7 o'clock when we get the new advisory that does come in. We'll have another one at 10 o'clock. That's the track update for both Marco and Laura. At this point in time, it looks like Marco's impacts fairly minimal. Larger impacts on the way with Laura by the time we get to the middle of the week. We'll get into it right now. Here's what we've got. We've got Marco sitting out just offshore right now. Very poorly defined storm, really battling back a lot of shear. You've got Laura, which is looking, all things considered, fairly impressive given where it sits out over in the islands right now. It's got its center out over the water again. It's got flare-ups on the southern part of the system. Getting some trouble getting the northern part going, or it was this morning, but you are starting to get some flare-ups now, and you're going to see it maybe slowly intensify here through the day today. But don't get caught off guard. It's really going to ramp up once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. That is some very warm water that storm is getting ready to work its way over, and expecting it to be an intense hurricane by the time it does arrive in southwest Louisiana, is where landfall is predicted right now. Marco's a different story. It got caught up in some shear. The center is almost completely exposed. All of the activity is well towards the northeast. I don't think we see many impacts, if any, from Marco as it kind of scrapes the coastline in Acadiana. May still get a couple rain bands. It's still going to be breezy. However, the intense thunderstorm activity associated with Marco is setting well to the northeast. So here's the track for Marco. We'll see if this thing holds together through the day today. Right now, National Hurricane Center still expects by the afternoon a landfalling tropical storm out through southeast Louisiana, then works its way along the coast. A depression by the time it gets to Vermilion Bay sometime tomorrow, and then a post-low out by early Wednesday morning. The way Marco looks right now, and just kind of the way Laura is going to look here in a few days, you're not going to get really any interaction from either of these storms. So there's not going to be any of the Fujiwara effect or anything like that had started to become very popular by the end of last week. Laura is a different story, though. Still expected to be very strong. The water here is really, really warm. The shear is going to be very, very low by the time Laura gets there. So expect it to be a Category 2 storm with winds at about 105 miles an hour. That puts it right on the verge of what is a major hurricane. Category 3 is considered a major hurricane, and that starts at about 110 miles an hour. Now, the difference between 110 miles an hour and 105 miles an hour is fairly minimal, and neither one you really want to see headed towards your area. So this track takes it up through southwest Louisiana. There is still some uncertainty. There is still a little wiggle room here, but it does look like somewhere between the Atchafalaya Basin and Houston is where you're going to see this storm kind of work its way through, and models are starting to become in better agreement now, at least when it comes to the track. A couple outliers there, and we'll kind of see how they all kind of coalesce over the next couple of days. But I would be prepared for a very intense hurricane to arrive by the middle of the work week. Storm preparations need to be wrapped up by Tuesday night, because by Wednesday morning, or Wednesday mid-morning, early afternoon, you'll start to feel some of the early effects. If you fall under an evacuation order, I would try and be out by Tuesday night to give yourself just a little bit of extra time. You do not want to be out on the roadways when things start to go south. So the impacts for Marco are going to be fairly minimal. 2 to 4 foot storm surge through southeast Louisiana. That's more Plaquemines Parish. For us, minor coastal flooding. Tides kind of come up by about a foot or two. You've got a ½ inch to an inch of rainfall possible. Flooding rains with Marco, or with Laura rather, going to be a different story. 8 to 15 inches worth of rain along the center. We'll have winds probably up to about 50 to 70 depending on the center. Again, we may see that a little bit higher. Gusts likely going to sit up at around 105, I think, through central Acadiana. Now, this is all track dependent, so we will keep an eye on that. It sounds like the 7 o'clock advisory coming in now. Katie?
All right, thanks, Daniel. Well, here's what